Welcome, everyone. My name is Matt Reiners, co-founder of Eversound, and with me today is Iyvonne Byers, the Chief Financial Officer at Priority Life Care. Iyvonne has been an administrator, an executive director, and CFO for multiple organizations, and has now been the Chief Financial Officer at Priority Life Care for almost 5 years. I haven't known Iyvonne as long as some of my other guests, but we hit it off immediately and think we even took a selfie together and sent it to Sebi, who's the CEO at Priority Life Care. Iyvonne is honestly one of the coolest and most down-to-earth CFOs I've met, and her energy and passion is contagious. So, Iyvonne, I have to admit, I've had quite the stereotype of chief financial officers during my career thus far. I won't go into specifics about what those were, but after hanging at a recent conference, those couldn't be any further from the truth. So, Iyvonne, are there any misconceptions you want to dispel on the finance people in senior living?
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Matt. I totally agree with you on meeting you, not knowing you for long, but we absolutely hit it off. And I certainly appreciate you and this opportunity for sure. So, but I think it's so funny. One of the first things that typically comes out when I meet someone new and they find out what I do is they say, well, you're not like any accountant I know. And I think that's so funny. First of all, as accountants in the profession, I think the biggest thing is there's a little bit of an element of they're heartless, because we're making financial decisions and they don't care. And I think there could be nothing further from the truth. I think that, there are so many financial decisions that are very difficult to make, but we certainly want to give insight. And typically in finance, we're actually not the decision makers. We are more the information providers. And so we can help to put out maybe some cost benefit for certain decisions or some different scenarios that if we do this, this may be the outcome, or if we do this, that might be the outcome. But at the end of the day, we really are there in long-term care to serve the residents. And we really want the building, the facility, the company to do well so that it's around to provide care for the residents and their families and the community. So I think number one, that's the biggest misconception is where some decisions come from. It certainly isn't about heartlessness, more so to me, maybe having a bigger heart and really, really wanting the business to do well for the residents. So I think the other one is, we're not boring. We are people. we have social lives like everybody else. I think people think sometimes that if you work in numbers and you work, people tend to think we love math. Not necessarily, but when we're just sort of evaluating how a business is performing, that's really our work, just much like your work is your work. But we also have personalities and different interests and things like that outside of work. And so I think those are a couple of the biggest misconceptions about finance people that I've run across in my career.
Yeah, and I've learned recently too, because I think you talk about you guys care too, which absolutely makes sense. And I've heard from another group that we work with where they talk to the finance people and they were like, hey, we would love to fund everything. Operations are the one that are making the decision, so they're the bad guys. So you can blame them.
Well, we try very hard not to point blame at anyone.
Yeah.
But certainly, 99% of the time we are not the decision makers. But there to really help, just give full insight into if we do this, this may happen. If we do this, that may happen. So, and I think the other thing, at least my team, we really try to, when we're budgeting or looking at maybe a new opportunity, we're always talking to operations and saying, hey, this is what we think. Is this doable? Can you actually make this happen and put this into practice? Because there's things sometimes, as a little bit removed, we miss. So we always want to make sure that we're on the same team with them. And we are there absolutely to support them in any way possible.
I love it. And I think you hit on a really important topic in terms of like insights, right? And like really providing that peek behind the curtain, because, when you can look at it that way, it's just that much more important. And I know, Priority Life Care works with different ownership groups, and, besides the standard data and insights that they're looking for, I'm curious, we've gone through 16, 17 months of this COVID world. Are there any new metrics or insights that they're looking for or want to see that are being tracked today that maybe wasn't happening 18 months ago?
So I think over the last, like you said, 18 months, at first, it was really COVID. What are the costs? What is the lost revenue? What is census going to be? There was just so much unknown. And, especially as the cost for particular items, hand sanitizer, gloves, masks were just escalating through the roof. It's very hard on the finance people to know the future, right? We were all in this pandemic together. The finance team didn't get any insight that everyone else didn't get, but it's a little bit on us to foretell the future, right? What's going to happen? Tell us. So really, that became very difficult trying to navigate and foretell what was going to happen. I think now that's a little bit behind us. What I'm seeing the most now is two things. Number one, we are where we are with census, and it's how can we grow this back to where we were or beyond? How quickly can we get there? And again, that's a little bit, it's not as easy as saying, well, it's going to be 1 or 2 per month, or 3 or 4 per month, whatever it may be, because there's so much surrounding those decisions. It used to be, I guess, a little more straightforward. You put your marketing efforts in, and you maintain your referral sources, and you do good with your tours and all of that. You have a great product to sell. It's an easier decision for families. Today, coming through COVID, it's a much more emotional decision. There's a lot more that families are considering. What happens if it happens again? If there's a variant and I can't see my relative or whatnot. And so predicting some of that census growth, to me, has become a little bit more difficult. But it is one of the things that these ownership groups, they have to know. Where are we going, and how long is it going to take us to get there? I think the other piece, and this to me, as of late, has been the biggest and most significant issue. It's staffing. It is, and we're seeing it across the board. I personally am seeing it in other industries. You want to go out to eat, you can't go past a certain time. There's not staff. Your retail locations are closing because there's not enough staff. We already, even before COVID, getting staff in long-term care industry, keeping consistent staff was a challenge then. It is even more of a challenge now. And I think that's the name of the game right now, is how are we going to attract and retain staff to care for our residents as we build this census growth. So to me, that's what I'm seeing across the board.
Yeah. And it makes total sense too, right? I mean, How are we going to get more people to move in, show the product's different, how this will improve quality of life and at home, and then having the people there to take care of them. It's definitely super important. So that makes a lot of sense. And now, so I know, we talk about it, the financial team has to be about dollars and cents when you get down to it, really providing those insights. But in an industry that at its core is driven by meaningful moments, resident experience, and quality of life, how do you suggest teams working with the finance team to make it dollar and cents? A little tongue twister there for you. But yeah, how do you suggest people that might be looking for opportunities like this and I know you guys are not the ultimate decision maker, but what sort of insights are you looking for from some of those other opportunities?
So one thing that I think the finance department can maybe be the most helpful with when it comes to the department heads especially, is we're such a resource to help understand your budget and understand what you have to work with. We have, varying degrees of experience with Excel and financial documents, but that's our bread and butter. So for us, explaining and helping to bridge that gap between the financial document and actual operations, what you have to work with. That's our specialty. So I think that's probably the biggest area where we can help out, is really helping to understand. And I know we do everything on PPD. I think across the industry, we do that. And so it's really helping them to understand, your budget says this based on that census. But when census goes up or down, that changes the budget that you have to spend. So I think sometimes we can get scared to spend anything, when we're told, hey, you've got to keep costs down, and we absolutely need to do that. We absolutely need to adhere to those PPDs, but helping to understand you can spend something. We want you to spend something. We just have to make sure that spend is appropriate for the census that you have. So, and I think, I'm kind of the queen of fun on a shoestring. So I think it's very, we can throw out ideas just like anybody else of things that are fun to do that don't cost a ton of money. So especially on the activity side, I'm all about making every day fun no matter what it is. And activity directors are the best at this. I mean, they can come out, hey, it's National Hershey Kiss Day today. We're going to get kisses for everybody, or whatever it may happen to be. So I find myself, I don't know why, I get very excited about those things that are fun. And I think sometimes just sharing that joy and supporting those meaningful moments with them from the finance team where they expect it to be vetoed. I think that maybe that says a lot. That says, yes, this is what we are about. We are not about always cutting costs. We want costs to be reasonable, but we absolutely want experience to be foremost in our minds. And so I think that's one area. The other thing that I think we can really help with is if there is something that maybe a staff member thinks that is needed or would be helpful or would be exciting for a community to have, I think we're the ones who can really help quantify maybe the cost versus the benefit of something and help them put together a presentation or a request for such an item. I think sometimes people get scared and they always think if we ask for something, the answer is going to be no. Well, the answer doesn't have to be no. I mean, sometimes the answer should be yes. It should be, let's not get one, let's get two. Because not only do they make life better for our staff, they make life better for our residents. I'm sure you understand this with Eversound. This is one of those things that's, someone might come to us and say, they might be scared to ask, hey, could we put money in for something like this because it's money spent and, they have few budget dollars anyway, but we can maybe help quantify and say, well, if you have a system like this, and we would be able to get one more resident to come in and be with us because they could actually hear you on the tour and their family could hear as well. And they could have one conversation together, then that helps pay for that system. And so I think that that's one way that the finance team can really help with all the departments when they have needs. And I think the key to that is being on the same team, being advocates for each other, and not, like we're in the principal's office up here saying, doling out the money. It's, hey, we're there. We are your support system. That's why we're here, to support you. And you just, if there's something you need, let us know what it is so we can help put it down on pen and paper. And you know what, if it doesn't work on paper, maybe we can help figure out an alternative.
Absolutely. I love it. And I think one of the things I'm taking away from that is, it's not you versus them, right? It's everyone that's working together towards a common goal. And I love the idea of kind of talking about, hey, this is where the budget's at today, because this is where the census is at. And it's just making it more of a team effort to drive that census. I mean, because life enrichment and activities helps with a lot of that, right? If people aren't happy, they're not going to be talking about it. If they're not engaged, good things don't happen. So I think what you said is spot on. And then just helping to kind of craft of what that can look like. And, I think we do get so wrapped up into the qualitative stuff with some of the stuff, especially on some of it, but we need to get into the quantitative side and really look at it in that sense, because that's what makes sense with dollars and cents. I'm full of them today. But then last question here for you. If you were to leave senior living leaders with, 3 key takeaways to help guide them over the next year, what would you say?
So this is a super easy one for me. At Priority Life Care, we have a motto, and it includes 3 key things. And it is talk, listen, and the third one is don't be an a-hole. And I'll explain that a little bit. So first of all, talk. I think the talk is about being transparent, and it's about being a good communicator with your residents, with families, with staff, with the community, letting everybody know what's going on so that people aren't wondering. And it just helps, make what you're doing a community event. And so everyone understands what's going on, and they don't think that there's something hidden behind the scenes and that you're not telling everything. So that's so important to us. I know, especially during COVID, I cannot even tell you how many meetings with residents, meetings with families. We had virtual meetings. We had doctors come in to have meetings with our families virtually so that everybody understood what we are doing to protect their family member and them, how we were monitoring what was going on with the CDC and the recommendations so we could open back up visitation, all of those kind of things. I think, the second one, listen. Of course, this is just as important. Listening to what people are saying. What are your residents needing? If you listen, they'll tell you. What do your family members need? That's the same thing. They say the biggest part of communication really is listening. And I think that's one thing that we do very well. And I know across the industry, a lot of us do it very well. I think the last one, don't be an a-hole. This one's a little near and dear to my heart. So personal story about Priority Life Care. So before we became Priority Life Care as we have it today, there was a different partner. And one of the different partner had the back office. And on the back office piece, there was a team member that wasn't as nice as they could be. But kind of going back to the original question about finance people and myths, kind of everyone accepted it as, well, that's the finance team, that's just how they are. And when Bobby and Sevi kind of split off on their own, they said to themselves, we don't have to accept that. That's not who we want to be. I don't care who you are, what position you have on our team. We don't want a-holes on our team. And so that became one of these driving principles. And so that's one of these things, now that, especially that person being on a finance team, that I like to hold out, that our finance team isn't like that anymore. We're a kind, fun-loving team that, is hopefully building an inclusive culture of everyone with joy, and not necessarily with maybe sternness that you would expect from a finance team.
No, so important, and I think so crucial to where we are in the world today, right? I mean, in terms of how we operate as people, of listening, talking, and most importantly, don't be an a-hole. So
right.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Iyvonne. It's been amazing chatting with you. Thank you so much for coming on. I think a lot of people will get a lot out of this, and it's just been amazing to chat here with you.
Awesome. Thank you so much.